All right, so this is our last class.
What?
Yep.
No.
Yep.
No. I
It's been 2 months. It's been 2 months. I'm sorry. So we'll get through Saul. Oh yeah. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Get through Saul if you don't recap.
That's right. Well, listen, we have to recap. If you don't recap, people get lost. So let's do this. Let's take a look at 1 Samuel 10 before we get into these three instances or incidents in Saul's life where he lost the confidence of the people, but he also lost that relationship with God. Right? God withdrew, his support of Saul. And it's really going to cause, major consternation on his part. But also it's going to cause a civil war to happen. Not a major civil war, but definitely a civil war within Israel itself. But let's take a look at 1 Samuel 10. We know that Samuel in verse 17 is going to gather all of the children together at Mizpah. Remember now that... there's different types of areas in Scripture that Samuel is bringing the people. Mizpah is one of them. Shiloh is another place. Remember, Jerusalem has not been taken, right? Jerusalem is not going to be taken until David, right? It's going to be controlled by what group of people? Jebusites. Thank you. Very good. And it's going to be a stronghold, and it's... the children of Israel at this time most likely were just not powerful enough or, crafty enough, as we're going to see, to take Jerusalem. But we'll look at that in a second. Verse, they gathered together. Samuel kind of goes over why they're there. You wanted a king? Well, here we are. They're going to draw Samuel in verse 20, and when Samuel had caused all the tribes of Israel to come, the tribe of Benjamin was taken. So they drew lots. We're not really told, but Benjamin is going to be taken. The house of Kish is going to be taken out of the tribe of Benjamin. And Saul, the son of Kish, was taken. So they whittled it down, right? You go from big down to the tribes and then the family, and now, here's Saul. Verse 21, and when they sought him, he could not be found. Okay, so this is an interesting start to Saul, right? And I think you see... what type of person he is. He's not a arrogant guy. He's not looking really to command the people at all. He's not looking to be king at all. In fact, I think the whole thing kind of overwhelmed him because remember, he's already been anointed by Saul in the previous chapter, by Samuel in the previous chapter. So he knows he's going to be king. He knows the purpose of this gathering. And, the poor guy is just, overwhelmed. He's hiding himself. Which is interesting, right? It's an interesting start to the great king. Behold your king, right? Verse 23, and they ran and fetched him thence, and when he stood among the people, he was higher than any of the people from his shoulders and upward. Oh, okay, that's good. That's, looking, as far as somebody that the people could get behind. Right, and we're going to find out that during this time in human history, particularly in warfare, you always had the great hero, right? In fact, the Philistines are going to have their great hero, who was Goliath, right? And so Saul's a big guy; he's taller than everybody else, but the Philistines had someone even bigger, right? So he looked the part. Saul is going to look the part, but they found him amongst the stuff. He was hiding himself. And Samuel said, you've chosen, see him whom the Lord has chosen, that there is none like him among all the people. And all the people shouted and said, God save the king. Now, interesting, last two verses here. And Saul also went home to Gibeah, and there went with him a band of men whose hearts God had touched. So you notice here, and I didn't realize this, but... Saul is going to have his band of men as well. He's going to have a committed group of people that are going to follow Saul. They're going to be extremely loyal to him. Just like David is going to have a committed committed group of people, 600 men as well. So they both have kind of a committed inner circle of warriors and of close friends. But the children of Belial, verse 27, said, "How shall this man save us?" And they despised him and brought him no presents, but he held his peace. Okay, so some of the people in Israel looked at this guy. He says, okay, he looks good, but, he's not a leader. We had to go find him. He was hiding. He's a coward. How can he lead us? How can he save us? But it's interesting there that Saul didn't say anything. It says that he held his peace, right? He didn't use this opportunity to try to get vengeance on the people that didn't support him. That actually is a sign of a good leader, right? You don't react to everybody that doesn't like you, right? President Trump maybe can take some cues from that. All right. Chapter 11. So we're confronted now, and we're not even getting to this. This is some background information. Kind of like a recap, background information recap. This next chapter, I think, gives us some insight into exactly what the Hebrews or the children of Israel were dealing with during this time. Remember, they had the Philistines, right? The Philistines are on the coast. They're moving eastward, kind of squeezing the children of Israel, taking their towns and their villages, taking their resources, as we're going to see, even taking their people. Okay, you had people being taken as well in becoming slaves. So Nahash, the Amorite. So not only are they dealing with the Philistines, but the Ammonites as well are a considerable problem. And you have a leader named Nahash who comes against Jabesh Gilead, and the men of Jabesh Gilead say, "Make a covenant with us and we will serve thee." And so Nahash says, "This is the condition. I'm going to thrust out your right eye. In order for me to make a covenant with you so there's peace, you're going to lose your right eye." And so obviously, hey, this isn't the greatest covenant. This isn't the greatest agreement I've ever heard of. And lay it for a reproach upon Israel. Okay, so there is a background of hostility between the Ammonites and the children of Israel, and it's coming to a head now. Nahash is taking advantage of kind of this chaos that's going on in this area, and he is asserting dominance over the people of Jabesh Gilead. And so the elders of Jabesh said in verse 3, "Give us 7 days so we can maybe find someone to save us." And Nahash is like, "Yeah, whatever, man. No one's going to save you. I'm Nahash." Verse 4. "Then came the messengers to Gibeah of Saul and told the tidings in the ears of the people, and all the people lifted up their voices and wept." So I think it gives us a little insight into kind of the psychological aspects of this, right? It's like the children of Israel. Oh, we got to deal with our brethren are going to lose an eye now. You have the Ammonites now that are being a thorn in our side. Is it ever going to end? Right? And so they were obviously upset about this. And behold, Saul came after the herd out of the field. Now, we think of David as a shepherd, and he was. But what was Saul doing when all this was happening? He was out in the field as well. He was a shepherd. He was tending to the flocks. He was tending to the herd. Okay, so it tells us a couple things, that Saul actually had the characteristics very early on of a good leader. He was a hard worker. Remember, he traveled all the way a good portion of Israel looking for his father's donkeys, right? And so he is kind of just doing his own thing, concerned about the welfare of his father's herds. And behold, it says, what aileth the people? Why are the people weeping? He says. And they told him the tidings of the men of Jabesh, and the Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard these tidings, and his anger was kindled greatly. Now this is the leader we've been looking for, right? He hears this, his anger's kindled, he has this zeal for God, he has this love for his people. I'm going to do something about it. And so he takes his oxen. And what does he do with his oxen? What does it tell us?
Cuts them up.
Yeah, he cuts them up, right? And he sends them out. And he says, if anybody doesn't support us, this is what's going to happen to your oxen. And so, oxen really were the backbone of agriculture in Israel and the Middle East, right? They were used for all types of things. Very strong, powerful animals. If you've ever been to, like, Freiburg Fair, Rachel, Freiburg Fair, James? Yep. Okay? Some of the oxen there are massive, right? And they're very powerful, and they can pull thousands and thousands of pounds. It's kind of like your tractor, right? A tractor now, or your farm implements, one of these big giant farms out in Iowa with all of the combines and everything. Think of it like that. Think of it in modern terms. Saul comes and he sets fire to his combine and says, if you don't follow us, I'm going to set fire to your combine and all of your farm implements. And that's pretty much what he's saying here. Whoso cometh not forth after Saul and Samuel, so shall it be done unto his oxen. And the people, and the fear of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out with one consent. So this massive force comes up. And the people of Jabesh, they were glad in verse 9, it tells us. And so verse 11, and it was so in the morning that Saul put the people in 3 companies. Okay, so there's leadership right there. He has a strategy. Okay, he puts the people into 3 companies. Okay, he's a general. And they came in the midst of the host in the morning watch. So they're going to hit them very early on. Oh, there's another piece of strategy that's going to work, right? So Saul is really checking all the boxes here of a good leader. Just like the people wanted to come in and to go out against our enemies. We've got a lot of enemies around here. We've got problems. And so Saul is going to show himself to be a great leader. He's going to save the people. The people of Jabesh Gilead, and they slew the Ammonites until the heat of the day. And it came to pass that they which remained were scattered, so that 2 of them were not left together. So complete victory, right? Nahash, the tough guy, is gonzo. And they wipe out the Ammonites, and Jabesh Gilead is saved. And more importantly, Saul now is elevated in the eyes of the people. Yes, you are finally the king. When the chips were down, you came through. He's not hiding amongst the stuff anymore, is he? Now he's out in front. So Saul's one of these guys that I think, he had a confidence issue very early on. He wasn't ready in his own mind. He didn't think he was up for the task. But when his people needed him, Saul was there. And he gathered all the people. He had a great strategy. He divided the people up into 3 companies, and he won the day. Now, just before we get to this, and the people, this is interesting, verse 12. And the people said unto Samuel, who is he that said, shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men that we may put them to death. Hey, where are all the guys saying that, Saul was, couldn't rule over us?
Sons of Belial.
Sons of Belial, the worthless men. Bring them out. They're going to die. Okay. And Saul said, there shall not a man be put to death this day, for today the Lord hath wrought salvation in Israel. Now here's a question for you, brothers and sisters. Keep in mind this response of Samuel, okay?
Saul.
Thank you. Saul, yes. Of Saul here. And compare it to his behavior later on in his reign, right? It's completely different. He's trying to keep the people together. This is a wonderful response. I'm not going to be vengeful against the people that didn't support me. We're all in this together. God has wrought a great victory to all of us, not just through me. And so, now, and all the people, verse 15, went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal, and there they sacrificed sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord, and there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. Wow. Now, that would, we ended right there. It was a great, one of the little, things in the Judges. And Saul judged Israel 20 years and there was peace, right? It could have ended that way, right? But unfortunately, it's not. We have a lot more to the story about Saul. And Saul's going to make some mistakes. He's going to be pressured to make decisions that are not going to be in the best interest of himself and of the people. And eventually, through this slow process, he's gonna lose his mind. He's going to be paranoid. He's going to be obsessed with keeping his kingdom and his crown. And this very humble, this very soft-spoken, this very good leader is going to just really end up being, just going to a witch of Endor. God is going to withdraw his support, and he's going to end up dying with his sons on Mount Gilboa. It's one of these sad stories of Scripture. When I think of Saul, I think of this great guy who had so much potential. And for a period of time, he was a great king. Saul was a great king. But he didn't end that way. Any questions so far? Keep it down in the back there, please. Thank you.
And that really sets up the history of Israel and Judah after Saul.
That's right.
Because after you get through with David and Solomon, how many times do we read that some of the kings start off really well, but
yes,
they end up really horrible?
Yeah, they make bad decisions, and they're trying to play both sides of it.
Right.
With all, even Solomon, right?
Right.
He brought in all of these different gods and set up all of these temples.
Yep.
So, all right. So let's see. Here's let's just take this other thing too. Verse in chapter 12, Samuel's going to gather all the people. This is what Samuel says in verse 2. Verse 1, behold, I've hearkened unto your voice, and I've made a king over you. You have a king. Congratulations. And now, behold, the king walks before you, and I am old and gray-headed, and behold, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my childhood unto this day. Behold, here I am, witness against me before the Lord and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Whose ass have I taken? Or who have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Or whose hand have I received any bribe to blind mine eyes wherewith? And I will restore it to you. And the people said, you haven't done any of those things. You've been great to us. And so, here's Samuel. I think Samuel is taking it personal that they wanted a king. I do. And I think that's why God said, hey, they haven't rejected you. They've rejected me. And here he is again saying, what have I done to you? I haven't done any. I've been a good judge. I haven't taken any bribes, which actually his sons were taking bribes too. Who else was taking bribes?
Sons of Eli.
The sons of Eli, thank you. Yeah, Hophni and Phinehas, right? They were taking bribes as well. So this was a big thing in Israel at the time, this idea of taking bribes and perverting judgment. And Samuel's saying, I've never done any of those things to you from my childhood on up. Right? And the people agreed, you haven't. You've been awesome. You've been great.
It's a big thing today.
It is a big thing today. That's right. We're still kind of dealing with some of these big themes, aren't we? Okay, let's see. Just take a look. We're not going to look at it right now, but chapter 12 is very interesting, right? It kind of, it's kind of like Samuel's last communication with the people as a group. And he says there, verse 23, moreover, as for me, God forbid that I should sin against the Lord in ceasing to pray for you. So Samuel's going to keep praying for the people. But I will teach you the good and the right way. Only fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all your heart, for consider how great things he hath done unto you. But if you shall still do wickedly, you shall be consumed, both ye and your king. Right? And so some pretty ominous words. Hey, if you do well, you follow us, things are going to go great. But if you do wickedly, it's going to go badly for you and your king. And so that's how the chapter ends. That's how chapter 12 ends. And now we get into chapter 13, where Saul begins to make some of these mistakes. The pressure of leadership is going to get to Saul. And I think our heart should go out to Saul. Okay, it does for me, right? Saul had a tremendous amount of, he was a great leader, and he had a tremendous amount of potential. But he's going to make some decisions that are going to affect him, his family, and the people in a negative way. So, Saul's going to reign 1 year, verse 13. He's going to choose out 3 men, 3,000 men. Jonathan in verse 3 is going to smite the garrison of the Philistines that were in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the trumpet through all the land, saying, let the Hebrews hear. They're going to be Saul has smitten a garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also had an abomination with the Philistines, and the people were called together after Saul in Gilgal. So Saul's going to go and pick a fight with the Philistines, right? There was a garrison within the area of Israel, and so this garrison, as we're going to find out, is kind of like a stronghold or a castle within the land of Israel. And from this castle, the Philistines are going to go out into the land and just really do whatever they want to do. They were called raiders. The raiders would go out and steal any foodstuffs, take any people, particularly children. They would snatch children and bring them back to be slaves, to be slaves in the land of the Philistines. So this was, when you talk about a garrison, the garrison itself really is the center of Philistine power within the land. It's kind of like, for all you history buffs. Oh, just me. No, it's okay. It's kind of like in English history, Edward I. He is going to go into Wales, and he's gonna build all of these castles everywhere, because the Welsh were always like rebelling and stuff like that. And so he's going to go in, he's going to build all of these castles everywhere. And so the castle is going to be, there's something that you can look at and say, ooh, there's a lot of power. That's kingly power right there. Philistines are doing the same thing. They're building a garrison in order to project their power and to oppress the children of Israel. And Saul's like, not on my watch. And so him and Jonathan are going to go, and actually Jonathan is going to go and he's going to smite the garrison. He's going to destroy the garrison, right? And this is the beginning of the rebelling process of the children of Israel against the Philistines, right? The Philistines are going to be like, that's it. We're going to wipe these guys out once and for all. Verse 5, and the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore, a multitude. And they came and pitched in Michmash eastward from Beth Arvin. Ooh, it sounded like a good idea of getting rid of this garrison, but we're gonna find out. It's interesting, was this a good idea, right? It seems that it was a little hasty on Saul's part and on Jonathan's part to do this, because they didn't have the support as we're gonna go on here. But anyways, so massive force of the Philistines are gonna come out against them. And the men of Israel in verse 6 saw that they were in a strait, for the people were distressed. Then the people did hide themselves in caves and thickets, in rocks and in the high places and in pits. And some of the Hebrews went across Jordan. So everyone's fleeing. So this event that maybe Saul and Jonathan thought were going to rally the people, it's having the opposite effect. They're like, no thank you, Deb.
It's called I'm behind you every step of the way.
All right, I like that, yeah. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. That's some great imagery, right? Some great use of the language. The people followed Saul. Yeah, we're with you, but I don't know, Saul. And so, verse 8, and he tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered before him. I'm feeling bad for Saul. I'm looking at this, and I'm feeling bad for him. He's in a tough situation. They're not there. People are just distressed. People are leaving left and right. They're hiding in caves and in thickets. Think about this, right? And the people that have actually stayed with Saul are completely distressed. And so they want Samuel to be there. And Saul was told, Samuel's going to be there in 7 days. Don't worry. But he's not there. And so you have this massive force of the Philistines. You have the people in rocks and in caves and in thickets. They're leaving, and Saul's just there by himself. Come on, Samuel, hurry up. We've got to offer sacrifices to God. We need God on our side. And the people were scattered before him. And so Saul makes the decision. He says, bring hither a burnt offering to me and peace offerings. And he offered the burnt offering. He took on that role of priest. He wasn't supposed to do that. That wasn't within his, in his job description. He wasn't the priest. But, he wanted, so Saul's heart was in the right place. He wasn't doing this to be malicious. He was doing it because he didn't know what else to do. And he says, we've got to get God on our side. We've got to offer to God. God needs to be with us, or we have no chance. And so he offers the burnt offering. And wouldn't you know it, right when that happens, who shows up? And Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. Hey, Samuel, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. And Samuel said, what have you done? And Saul said, because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you came not in the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together. Therefore I said, the Philistines will come down upon me in Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. I forced myself, therefore, and offered a burnt offering. I mean, that's a good answer. It's pretty reasonable, right, to our thinking. It's like, yeah, everything Saul said was actually very truthful there to Samuel. I got this massive fort of Philistines. I have to make supplications to God. God needs to be with me. You didn't come in 7 days. I thought something happened. You have done foolishly, Samuel said, that thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. But now your kingdom will not continue. The Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord hath commanded him to be a captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. And so, this one event, this one decision is going to have drastic and long-lasting effects on Saul, his family, and on the children of Israel. He made one bad decision right here. He's going to make some other ones, but I personally feel bad for Saul. I don't know what we would have done, if we were in that situation as a leader with a massive force of your enemies coming to wipe you out and to wipe out everything that you hold dear and love. Difficult situation. But that was the judgment of God. You've done foolishly. You didn't keep the commandments. You took on the role of the priest. You weren't supposed to do that. You're king. There's a difference between being a king and a priest. That's only reserved for one person. And that's the Messiah.
And to Mark's point, that's again something that repeats itself throughout history.
Yeah.
Uzziah and these others that take on the priesthood as king.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's this like there's certain kings in Scripture that, they saw the importance of it and wanted to control it. Like Uzziah was definitely the one. Like he busted right in there and people are trying to stop him and everything. So yeah. Okay.
Any thoughts on,
Yes, Steve.
like David went in and ate the showbread and he wasn't chastised?
Yeah.
Any ideas as to why the discrepancy?
I'd have to think about it. I mean, something that just kind of pops into my mind is one was kind of, you're eating something. It was the showbread. It was holy. They weren't supposed to do it. It was allowed by God. I think the sacrifice aspect of it might be the difference, Steve, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to
I don't know.
Yeah, was it an attitude? I don't know. Yeah, it's a good point. Look at verse 15 here. And Saul numbered the people that were present with him, about 600 men. You have this massive force, thousands of horsemen, thousands of chariots, thousands of soldiers, and he's got 600 men. Who else had 600 men, by the way?
David.
Yeah, David had 600 men. You know, Saul had 600 men. David had 600 men. These are kind of the core group of, I would say, Saul's loyal followers, the great warriors, right, that were kind of in his person. This would be like his personal bodyguard.
That was Benjamites for the most part.
Yeah, most likely probably Benjamites, yes. You know, related to him in some way, for sure. Yep. All right, verse 17. And the spoilers came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. And so they're going to go out into the land. Now the spoilers, you have this massive force. These guys were just foraging for supplies. You know, you need supplies in order to feed this massive amount of soldiers. And so these guys would go out and just take whatever they wanted to feed this massive army. Now this is interesting, given the fact that Saul and Jonathan just kind of started this war by destroying the garrison, right? Now there was no smith, there wasn't a blacksmith found throughout all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make them swords or spears. So the Israelites didn't even have the ability to make weapons of war. The Philistines wouldn't allow it. There was no blacksmith in the land that the Philistines knew of, anyways. Do I think that there were people that were, you did this in the underground, and there were certain people that could work with swords and spears? Yeah, I'm sure. But the Philistines made it clear that the Israelites would have no way of making weapons of war. So what did the children of Israel do? But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen every man his shear, his cutter, his axe, and his mattock. So in order to get anything done, to sharpen instruments and stuff like that, you had to go to the Philistines. So the Philistines really are controlling the economics of the children of Israel. Why do I say that? Well, what are all of these things that the children of Israel are bringing to the Philistines? What are all those things that are mentioned there? Yeah, they're farm implements. That's right. And so if you don't have sharp farm implements and they're not working properly, well, you can't harvest, you can't plant. And so just think about that for a second. You had to go to your sworn enemy to get your farm implements straightened out or fixed. It's just a very difficult situation. These are some of the things that were going on in Israel at the time. And so you wonder why the people were so distressed. They just were sick of the Philistines. Verse 21, yet they had a file for the mattocks and for the cutlers and for the forks and for the axes to sharpen the goads. So it came to pass in the day of battle that there were neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people that were with Saul and Jonathan, but with Saul and with Jonathan, his sons were there found. And the garrison of the Philistines went out to the passage of Michmash. So the stage is set. The only people that had weapons of war were Jonathan and Saul and the other sons of Saul at this time. Again, a small group of people actually have weapons of war. Everyone else doesn't. They have farm implements, and they're following them down, which is actually very common in the ancient world. Not until like the Greeks and the Romans are you going to have like professional armies that have, a vast amount of weapons. Usually they had very crude weapons at this time. And you had a small group of people like elite soldiers and warriors that would have, the great weapons made out of iron, the strong weapons. Others were just kind of made out of bronze, or in some cases copper, or even wood. All right? And so there was a discrepancy for sure. All right, so it brings us to the strike two. Now, this is really kind of a great story, right? Came to pass upon a day that Jonathan, the son of Saul, said unto the young men that bear his armor, Come, and let us go over to the Philistines' garrison that is on the other side. He's not going to tell Saul. He's going to go do it himself, right? And so anyways, verse 4, and between the passage by Jonathan, go to the Philistines' garrison. Verse 6, Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for there is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or few. So this right here gives us insight into the character of Jonathan, right? He's trusting his God. He says God works through a big army. He can work through a small army, to a small group of people. Hey, that's me and you, right? And so let's go up. And so the armor bearer goes, hey, whatever you want to do, I'm with you, buddy. And so that's what they do. I'm looking for a word. Armor bearer. Oh, yeah. So verse 13. So they make a deal. They say to themselves, if they tell us, when we go up to the garrison, which was up on a kind of a high area, if they say, hey, come see us, right? Then we know that God's with us and we're going to win this battle, right? So already they have it in the mind. The Philistines are either going to ignore us or they're going to tell us to come up. Come on, we got something to show you, Hebrews, right? And that's exactly what they did. But take a look at what happens here in verse 13. And Jonathan climbed upon his hands and upon his feet, and the armor bearer after them. So he's climbing with his hands. So it shows you how kind of steep it was, right? They had to climb up to this area. So it's one of these great examples of faith. Jonathan has faith that God is going to work through him to deliver Israel. But he's going to do something about it. His faith is going to turn into action. And the action is, him and his armor bearer are going to climb up this area. And then he's going to come up to the field here. And it says, upon his feet and his armor bearer after him. And they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer slew after them. And so Jonathan and his armor bearer are going to be victorious in this garrison. He's going to wipe out the garrison here. And the spoilers in verse 15, and the garrison and the spoilers, they also trembled, and the earth quaked. So it was a very great trembling. So there's the battle, this small battle that happens, but also associated with it is an earthquake. And so these two things are going to happen, and it's going to freak the Philistines up. Ancient people were extremely superstitious. Extremely superstitious. Something that we can't even understand because we live in a very scientific world. But imagine you have two Hebrews, right? They come up and they've just wasted a whole garrison of Philistines, and then there's an earthquake. So the Philistines are like, oh boy, here we go again, right? Remember the last time that they fought the Hebrews? What natural event happened? Remember, Samuel had gathered all the people together, and what happened? Remember the rain and the hail and the lightning? Remember, and that actually helped defeat the Philistines. So we have that happening, and now we have an earthquake, right? Okay. And the watchmen of Saul and Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away. This massive force is melting away. And they went on beating down one another. So, this paranoia and this, just this fright is going to go through the camp of the Philistines, and they're going to turn on each other. And the Israelites are going to see that. And so Saul's going to number the people, and Jonathan and his armor bearer are missing. And Saul sent it to Ahijah, bring hither the ark of God, for the ark of God was at this time with the children of Israel. And so again, Saul turns to God. He wants the ark of God there. Okay? Again, it just shows you, even though he's made some mistakes, he still, wants to have a relationship with God. He's still showing respect to God. And so anyways, there is a massive battle. The Israelites come. They go and they're slaughtering the Philistines. They're chasing them everywhere. And so it's a great day. And so Saul is going to make this. He's going to make this vow. And he says in verse 24, and the men of Israel were distressed that day. Why? For Saul had adjured the people, saying, Cursed be the man that eateth any food until evening, that I may be avenged of my enemies. So none of the people tasted any food. Now this is one of these kind of rash things that Saul does, right? He made a rash decision to sacrifice to God. Okay? Understandable. This really is not so understandable. Like, why would you make that vow that no one was to eat until I avenge my enemies? Right? Well, people need to eat. I think Saul didn't want the people stopping to get the spoils, right? To stop and to eat, and he wanted a complete annihilation of the Philistines. So he said, no one is to eat until we wipe all these guys out. There's a focus. You need to be focused on your task. I don't want you stopping, killing some sheep. I don't want you stopping getting any spoil or anything like that. We got to get these guys. Okay. There's honey on the ground in verse 25. And when the people were come into the wood, behold, the honey dropped. So much honey just dropping. Delicious, delicious honey. Imagine being super hungry like this, and then there's honey. Honey in the ancient world was called the food of the gods, right? And so because particularly warriors would want honey like this because it gave you instant, all of that sugar and all of those carbohydrates, it kind of gave you just instant energy, right? And so the honey is dropping down. Oh, honey, let's stop. Yes?
Is it true they didn't have bees in the ancient world, that the honey was actually date-based?
So there were yes. There were bees in the ancient world in this area. Yes. But what have you heard?
That there wasn't, and it was all dates. Because when you go to Israel now,
Yes.
you can't buy just regular honey. It's date-based.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I know the Babylonians had bees. They called them stinging flies. So that's interesting. I'll look at that. Yes.
Samson?
Samson had the honey as well. That was in the lion, the carcass of the lion. Yes.
I was going to say Deborah, I think, means bee, the word bee, doesn't it? And that was an ancient name.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I think so.
Okay, I'll look at that. Very good. Say again, Jim?
You have some homework.
I do have some homework. I'm gonna have to recap. Next class. But Jonathan, right? Jonathan's the one that kind of started this whole thing. Jonathan's probably starving. Look, I've been killing Philistines for hours now. Okay, I'm hungry.
Work up an appetite.
Yeah, this warfare, you really work up an appetite. Jonathan didn't hear his father's oath. Wherefore he put forth the end of his rod that was in his hand and dipped it in a honeycomb and put it in his hand in his mouth, and his eyes were enlightened. This is the best honey I've ever had.
Aces for honey.
Right. I remember it reminds me of, I was down in Texas years and years ago. And we were out on a lake, and we were just, we had, what do they call the ski? Jet skis, thank you. And I came in after I was doing the jet ski, and I had a Dr. Pepper. I was so thirsty. And it was the best drink. I remember to this day that Dr. Pepper was so refreshing, so full of sugar. It's delicious. And so it kind of reminds me of that, right? Yeah. So look at, now here, this is the thing. The people in 28, your father straightly charged the people with an oath, cursed be the man that eateth any food this day.
You can tell him that before he ate it?
Right. Well, that's true. And all the people were faint. They were exhausted, right? Look at Jonathan's response. My father has troubled the land. See, I pray you, how mine eyes have been enlightened because I tasted a little honey. How much more if haply the people had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies which they found. For had there not been now a much greater slaughter among the Philistines? Oh, so Jonathan's looking at it in a different way. There's different philosophies here. Saul's like, listen, no one's eating anything. You're just going straight at these guys. Don't stop for any of the spoil. Jonathan's like, that's crazy. If we had time to rejuvenate ourselves and eat of the spoil, we would have done much even better against the Philistines. Okay? Interesting. There's already some friction and some cracks between Saul and Jonathan. Okay? Jonathan sees things differently than Saul does. And I think Jonathan is getting tired of Saul making these demands on the people without giving any thought to the long-term ramifications of it. Right? So, Saul is going to find out that Jonathan was the one. Actually, the people went crazy, right? They were so hungry. What did they do to all the spoil?
Eat it without cooking it.
Yeah, they ate it without cooking it. They were just like, they ate it with the blood and everything, which actually was against the law, right? You weren't to eat things with the blood. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. They ogged the calf. They slew them on the ground, and the people did eat them with the blood in verse 32. Saul finds out that it was Jonathan that actually started this. Verse 44, and Saul answered, God do so to me also, for thou shalt surely die, Jonathan. Okay. Let's calm down there, Pops. Right? Now this is interesting. In verse 45, right? And the people said unto Saul, shall Jonathan die who hath wrought this great salvation in Israel? God forbid, as the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he hath wrought with God this day. That's great. The people now were standing up to Saul, right? And so even though Saul was the king, the people forced Saul to back off. And it says that the people rescued Jonathan, right? And so this is, when people say, this was really kind of democracy, right? For lack of a better word. This is the people coming together to prevent the leader from doing something that they didn't like. And so I think that's going to have effect on Saul too, because he's what happens with strike 3 right here with the Amalekites? Who did Saul blame for this? And for strike 3 with the Amalekites? He said the people, right? The people were the ones that wanted to keep the spoil. Okay? All right. Who has the next class, Brother Jim?
Steven.
I do. You want it?
Can I have one more day?
Yep.
All right. One more day. One more day.
One more recap.
One more recap.
And this is just the beginning, because Saul has to hear how great Jonathan was in the victory.
Yes.
And later on, it's David.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
tens of thousands.
That's right.
50,000.
That's right.
He's the guy, not you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, so you can see like
It's
Saul
building
kind of,
up.
yeah, he's losing control, and he's got like kind of the younger generation moving up, and the people really like, the people love Jonathan, right? All right, any other questions, comments on this?
You mentioned on the disconnect between Saul and Jonathan, for him to not know, to have somebody else tell him that his son is gone when he's right-hand man.
Yeah,
That's a really big disconnect.
yeah, for
right?
sure, for sure.
And then just the contrast in the two of them. Saul is looking, I think that it shows up a couple times, Saul is looking while Jonathan is actually doing something, so it's like,
Yeah,
who really should be the king?
Right.
The doer or the watcher?
yeah, that's great. That's good, Jimmy. Yeah. So yeah, Jonathan really is making a name for himself through his faith in God, but also through the action as well. People right here, they recognize it was Jonathan that brought the victory. It wasn't Saul. It was Jonathan that brought this great victory against the Philistines. Saul's not going to like that. Hey, I'm the guy now. I'm the king. Right? It's interesting to see the transformation of Saul. All right. So we have one more class. We'll look at kind of this last right. We'll look in a little more detail on strike 3. We'll talk about David's anointing and hopefully get to David and Goliath. All right?